think the hype is real, actually. But it's not going to be as quick as everybody says, and it's going to be different. Sports in the US are much more about entertainment than just a short game. Like a soccer game here is 90 minutes, quick half time. Whereas in the US, games can be between 2 hours and 4 hours. There's a lot of breaks. There's a lot of razzmatazz and entertainment. And it's the same when you go into casinos in the US. It's much more about entertainment. The sports books in the US have got a bar, they've got TVs everywhere, they've got prices coming through in real time. When you go to a betting shop in the UK, it's much more transactional, and while it gives a good experience to customers, it's not quite at the same level.
Well, I think if you look at people outside the U.S., they're, number one, they don't necessarily understand what our policymaking legislative process is. And I don't think they realize how slow it might be. So there is a sense of this gold rush mentality that we're going to get in there and do that. But it's going to be a bit of a slog. It's going to take a little while for all of those various states to number one, go through the education process. These are state legislators that really have absolutely zero knowledge about this and how it works. So it's going to be a long haul. So I think people's expectations need to be tamped down a little bit about how quickly this is going to come to pass. But it's coming.
If you talk to 10 people, you get 10 different estimates, but the people that have had that direct experience with sports betting in America prior to UEGA coming through, those people that have experienced the power of the US market are the ones that are putting the most optimistic estimates out there. I think in 5 years, the sports bettors in America will have calmed down and they'll be less hysterical than they are now. You know, one kind of little tiny thing goes wrong at the sports book, and there's a front page article in the New York Times about how the U.S. is failing at sports betting. I mean, it's just kind of ridiculous. People make honest mistakes. It's a new market. They don't have the same experience that we have in Europe to run regulated sports betting. They're literally just the people are not there. So everyone's essentially being trained up from scratch. So I think in 5 years, whether it's 10 or 20 states that have sports betting, it'll have just calmed down and be much more normalized.
Let's just bring us down to UK numbers here. So New Jersey has a population slightly smaller than Greater London. Nevada has the population combined of Kent and East Sussex, and Delaware has a population equivalent to Berkshire. Those are the three legalized online gambling states.
But California is the size of Germany, right?
Correct, but that is a way off, as we all know. So having looked at all the legislation that's in the process of review and drafting in a minute, realistically, you guys might differ in opinion here. I think even when we get the likes of New York, Michigan, Illinois coming on board, we may only be looking at a realistic market of 81 million people in the US. Perhaps within the next 5 years. Obviously, it could be less, it could be a lot more. But that, for me, would be a realistic expectation. And I know we're going to get to this point in a bit, but that leaves 250 million Americans with no place to go and bet on sports online anytime soon, except the offshore market.
I agree. I think we'll have multiple states. We'll have a more mature market. I think the key thing for me is we'd have learned. No one really understands the American better yet. And I think once we do that, both operators and affiliates will be in a much better position to actually drive the market forward in a responsible fashion.
Definitely a US-facing brand has got to be up there. Obviously, access to the sports betting licenses, the technology, the operational excellence goes without saying, and incidentally, the innovation that's going to come out of that going forward as well, because when we talk to investors in some of the roundtables we do, the number one question is always about what is going to be different in the States that we're not seeing over here in the UK, Europe. Where's the next best thing when Silicon Valley, for example, going to come, going to play its card. Access to database of customers, the ability to transfer predominantly a gaming-led country into sports, although it is a sports-mad country. Probably, yeah, as Anton says, that cultural mix as well. So if you've got a power base between the partnership that you're dealing with that is equally shares those things, then I think you're sort of got a good recipe there. But if there is a difference, then that's when an M&A might get into trouble.
I think the most important factor when if you're European based looking to get into the US is to have control over your tech when it comes to sportsbook. So if you're not a sportsbook-led operator, then it's very difficult to see your immediate path into that market, because all of the gaming thoughts in the US from parties who are looking to do something is suddenly all around sportsbook. My view, there are other opportunities out there. Lotteries are going online, and casino in many states will inevitably follow on from sportsbook, because there'll be examples like New Jersey where operators and more importantly the state is getting taxes from both verticals, and it would seem a natural add-on. So that will come further down the line. But if you don't have, if you're not sportsbook led, or you don't have that sportsbook tech, then your route in is very difficult.
Well, I think it'll look very different in 5 years to the way it looks in the next 2 to 3 years. I suspect that given JVs generally fail, lots will fail. I would suspect that given kind of unholy partnerships between competing interests generally fail, plenty will fail. And I suspect that the biggest player may not even exist yet. So much like we saw here, I would imagine there will be innovation, there will be some freedom around technology. In the very, very long term, I suspect the person with the best product, the company with the best product, will win. And I think that's very complex as to what the best product looks like, but we're just faced with so many unknowns.
My view, if I give you a golf analogy, I think product allows you to make the cut, and I think that your excellence in operations and execution and delivering value to your customer allows you to win. I think that's who's going to win.
I would say it's simple. Scale matters. Who is going to have the most access to the most states can build the scalability, both around investment in R&D, both investment in marketing, and that ultimately will be the winner. What we are all doing right now, we are betting on the outcome of this sportsbook frenzy. We don't know how many states at the end will regulate. We don't know what will be the taxation in these states. There are a bunch of deals being made in a complicated waterfall structures, and it's all basically a bet for a long-term success. And I agree with my colleagues, you cannot predict, but ultimately who is able to scale, that's the person that is going to win.
Very exciting. We're looking forward to all the opportunities that are coming out of this. The growth of the market is going to be huge. It's going to lead to future development that I think will be best for bettors and best for the industry as a whole.
It's very exciting. I mean, I used to say, I've been doing this since 1995, and I used to say this will never happen in my lifetime, and I have to change my mind because obviously it's happening. So it is pretty exciting, and it was just really being able to flip a switch with the Supreme Court decision. And also, I think we have to give kudos to the state of New Jersey for pushing that issue to the extent that they did, because had they not pushed it, we wouldn't be where we're at now.